Welcome back to Fire Emblem Thracia 776. This is Chapter 20, which is kind of like a run ender for a lot of people. I've seen people lose Ironmans here. I've seen people just get frustrated and quit the game here, honestly. And this is the one chapter where I can actually kind of see why. I'll explain why. There's some things about it that I don't think are all that fair, even for this game, and how its reputation as like a cryptic, unfair game kind of pollutes the discourse on it, I think, a little bit. We're back in 2 times speed because I forgot that this chapter was kind of long, even without animations on, because it requires a little bit of surgical insertion of units at different spots and just some careful planning. Got to think on your feet a little bit at times, depending on how the units move and everything. So the whole gimmick here is that once again your units are split up in kind of weird, wild ways. The reason for that is, I suppose, because there's actually a time skip in between this chapter and the last one. It's like half a year or a year or something like that. Some amount of time that I've forgotten and didn't see as it was flashing on the screen here. And the siege here has been going on for some time. So basically, like under pressure from these units down here, your units have been split up over some period of time. And this is like your last stand, basically, in Leaf's, unfortunately, about to be ravaged castle here. So the way you can deal with it is just by, if you've been stocking up on door keys, making sure everybody has one, rewarp staves, thieves, and whatnot are fine. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that Lara, when she promotes to dancer, she can still use lockpicks and stuff. I don't think she can steal, which she's not going to have the speed for it anyway, so it doesn't matter. But she can still use lockpicks, as you can see here. She's opening a chest when she's got not much else to do. So between all those factors, you should be fine. In an emergency, you could even use Tina's unlock staff. There's plenty of things you can do. And then you want to get everybody mounted as quickly as possible, because nobody's going to start this chapter mounted no matter what. Every tile that they start on is indoors. There's these, like, Leaf apparently captured these armor knights up there, I guess is what's happening up in the upper right. But why they are armed, I have no idea. So if you leave them unattended, they can sort of become a problem, I guess, if you keep your units around there to get attacked. You can just take them out through the wall like I'm trying to do here. What happens eventually is on some turn a bishop spawns, and they actually have unlock staves of their own, which if you capture them, you can get more unlock uses for Tina, which is pretty nice actually. It's a little risky though, and you'll see why soon. But they will use those staves to start unlocking random doors, and so they can let those guys out. It's like up to a little bit of random chance. Down at the bottom, which is the main group you have to worry about, right now it's just armor knights, and there's like 3 generals and then a baron. And the objective of this chapter is actually, like, it's survive for 10 or 15 turns or something like that, and kill the boss. And to my knowledge, that doesn't mean that if a certain number of turns goes by and you haven't killed the boss, that you lose. What eventually happens, I think, is that the boss just starts moving. But even in my initial couple runs of this game, like the first couple times I played this, I didn't take long enough where I got to find out. As you can see, we've got some more armor knights, and they're not entirely weak. So try and make use of these forests if you're playing this. if you even go down there at all. And the knowing what I've just said about these Armor Knights, or I mean about the boss, that he eventually starts moving, your instinct might be to turtle, and I guess that can probably work. I'd actually like to play this chapter that way at some point, because I'm like the only person on the planet who seems to like defend chapters. And I want to see more of like how this plays out if you don't play aggressively. But we're going to play aggressive here, and we'll see how that goes. The nice thing is that, I mean, of all the units here, Leaf is going to be the most safe because he always spawns in the throne room in the upper left. There's usually, like, I don't know what deployment slots spawn with him. I haven't made it a point to look that up, and I probably won't, just so this game stays fresh and interesting in different ways. But he has 2 units that spawn with him, so as long as one of those has a door key, and I think there might be another door that they have to open below that, then they can get out of the throne room. But if nothing else, Leaf is safe, so you can't lose this chapter very easily from that perspective. Let's talk about the boss's group. The boss has like all sorts of crap in his inventory. I mentioned in one of the previous chapters that there was a boss coming up that has a scroll in his inventory, and that's this boss. And then he's got like, you know, a master weapon and like a backup weapon, I think, maybe. He might not actually. You can declaw him pretty easily from my memory. In fact, I might do it here. I don't even remember. We're just going to have to wait and see. Bringing Marita is a little risky. She's kind of exposed here. She could easily get like 2-shot by these guys if she gets particularly unlucky. Luckily, Nana's nearby. And then these other generals surrounding the boss also have master weapons. So this guy is hard to get to from like if you go the aggressive route like I am. And now one of the unfair things that was a quadruple miss by Finn. I remember that happening, and he doesn't have like no hit rate against these guys either. I think I actually like look right here, and I'm like, what the heck? Yeah, like it's like a 63 hit rate. He missed all 4 of those attacks with his Master Lance. I think that's what I was thinking of when I was saying in that one chapter that like they might seem like they're the best weapons in their category, but the master weapons actually have like lower accuracy, especially compared to like the Brave Lance. So just know that if you send in a unit, Lance is blazing at some point, it might not play out how you think. But what was I saying about unfair things in this chapter? The boss is invincible for like the first 5 turns. I don't know if it's exactly 5, and I didn't know when I was playing this. I just know that there's a period of time where you cannot kill him. You can damage him, but there's not really much of a point. I think you might even have a healing item on him, so it's kind of like counterproductive. One of the times I was playing this, and it was like a quasi-Ironman, I was like, I had reset for a Leaf death, because this was before I started putting a life ring on him, and he got hit by a Thoron back from Ilios on chapter 16a, actually. And so I was resetting for things like that, but otherwise I was just letting units die. It was one of those kinds of Ironmans. And on that run, I didn't know at all that boss had the invincibility flag. So I lost like Asbel and somebody else who was really good. I'm that guy. And I ended up killing him on like the next turn or the turn after with a Xavier enemy phase Wrath critical, which was pretty satisfying. But it's totally stupid that this guy just is secretly invincible when the objective flat out tells you that you eventually have to kill him. So if the player chooses to be aggressive about it, then they should be able to kill him whenever. And I don't know if there's some sort of gameplay reason for that, like, because even after you kill him, units still spawn. Like they are scheduled to spawn like every other turn or so. You get like a new funny group of enemy units. Like the mages came at some point while I was talking. There's more armor knights that come at some point. I think those might be the only ones that get canceled when you destroy the boss. But like the ballista still spawn, even with the boss dead. And that's the other thing that's maybe a little bit unfair, is because if you're going aggressive or even like reasonably aggressive, and like you're just kind of waiting and camping out up here, then all of a sudden like 4 ballista just randomly spawn, and those can kill. I don't want to say anybody. I don't know if they're like super strong ballista on this map. I didn't look. But my thing was, since I wasn't looking up anything, looking up positions and everything, I said to myself, I'm going to try and block them as best I can here. And that's all you can do if you're hanging around in this area. The only other option is, like, you can stay out of their range, but then if you ever want to go into that area again, you're going to have to incur the wrath of all of them at once, rather than being able to just take them out from your position down at the bottom. So it's like you're taking on some risk unless you are, like, looking at the Fire Emblem WOD map and painstakingly positioning all your guys so that they block the spawns there. And I tried to do it just to make things a little bit easier on myself, but I didn't know exactly if I was on the right tile. So there was some risk there, and we'll see what happens with that. But some of the units that spawn as these waves of reinforcements have like funny AI. Like sometimes the mages just don't attack, even if they can do damage. Like on the first turn, I mean. And then they like move toward Castle Leinster, and then like on the second turn they'll start attacking anybody in their range. So here's where I started thinking about like when it's possible for me to attack the boss and succeed. And another thing is, as with most of these like super strong Baron bosses, even if this guy wasn't invincible, he's still a threat. He can still kill anybody, unless you've given every life ring to like one particular unit, and like maybe the defense ring, or the shield ring, or whatever it's called in the most popular English patch. Then maybe somebody can survive him in a round of straight combat. But otherwise, like, this is an anybody can die situation, and here I'm checking everybody's chances, from Finn to Fergus to Ashian to Asbel, and Homeros is there. Although I don't think I would try and pit Homeros against him, at least not this one. I'm thinking right now about one of my last Ironmans, which was my best ever Ironman, where I had like a 9-move Homeros, a 9-move Merida, a 9-move Asbel. It was awesome. And God, like this run, only having some tiny move level ups, just is. I mean, those are some of the most fun things about this game are the move level ups, and I just got none of them. I'd like to be able to blame that for the reason why I've lost as many units as I have this time. I certainly could have used those move level ups on the last chapter. But as you can see, the I did guess correctly, and the boss is now dead. Um, so, at this point, you can just run. Like, you can turtle up in the castle. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. Um, these priests have some, like, free crap that you can take, along with the bishops and their unlock staves. And they actually have restore staves, I believe, too, which those are always useful. If you can take those, you should always take them. I think um, in this run, I actually had like way more than I would ever need, but you'll always take that rather than too few, right? So it's just, don't pass up free crap. I think that's a good life, uh, MO there. So here we're seeing just how these ballista can feel unfair. I mean, it's not unfair that I put Nana in range of them, but I needed her support for the boss, I think, and she had a chance. Really, she could have died there. I'm just checking that and like sweating a little bit there. I'm not sure if the mage could have killed her. I think I checked that and decided that it wasn't possible that he could have killed her at that level of hit points. But luckily it distracted the ballista for long enough where I could have everybody else move in and kill them. So, not much is going to happen for the rest of the chapter because some of those armor reinforcements are now canceled. And the only other thing really of note is that the long ballista are going to spawn in a few turns. And those are, of course, more powerful as well as having increased range. It's not the first time we've seen long ballista. If you think back to chapter 14, the ballista that Asbel kills on like turn 2 after warping him, that's a long ballista. So that's one of those things that is meant to keep Dean away, essentially. Ashian just killed a general there. I think I may have thiefed another weapon and missed it while watching the video just now. I think thief is well worth repairing. I think, well, I don't think I've done it yet, so I won't talk about it now. But like, a lot of people frown on repairing weapons and things like that rather than like warp. And honestly, I think this game gives you enough warp where you can get by. I've done entire runs, even Ironmans, without ever repairing a warp staff. It depends on what route you go. Um, part of what was informing my decisions at this point in the run is that I went B route, and I also like messed up some other stuff that like was sort of like behind the scenes mistakes that like I didn't really go over, like long-term planning mistakes sort of, as far as like which staff units were going to hit A rank reasonably, and like taking Linoan's potential future promotion into account, that kind of stuff. And I may not have the time to actually talk about those kinds of things in the ensuing chapters, however many of those are left. So I may talk about some future stuff as it is now in like chapters out of order is what I'm trying to say. I don't know. I think I'll have the time, maybe more so in chapters after the chapters where the pieces of information are actually relevant. But enough of me rambling about vague things that don't help you at all. Um, at this point, just don't mess around. If you've got the boss killed and everything, you might have the victory music even at this point. Just get all your units out of the way. The very, very last thing that happens is some mages with meteor tomes spawn, and in my experience, those guys are always really, really weak. Um, like, they have like 10, 12, 13 attack power or something like that. Like, and variance, while I've said a couple times during this run that variance is kind of wild for enemy stats in this game, they're not so wild that, like, that unit can instead have like 20 attack power. It's basically like plus or minus 5, all things considered. Maybe not even that much. But it mostly makes a difference in the early chapters because everybody has lower stats, including enemies. So just a few points of variance is comparatively more of a big deal at that point. Like, say if a unit would have 3 strength and they get like +3, then that's basically double strength for that point in the game. So that's why people get screwed so much more often in those early chapters because of things that they couldn't foresee, because that disparity is much greater. It's the same in like if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, or if you're playing like a Dungeons and Dragons inspired video game, like say Neverwinter Nights. Say you're at first level and you have 10 HP. Well, when you get level 2 and you like say you have like max HP roll, then your HP is doubled, and you're never going to get that big of a bonus ever again. So your increase in power is always the greatest in the beginning of any game like that handles stats in like a D&D influenced way. And I'm including games like this and that because any game that you play that has like hit points and like strength stats and stuff like that is all like the grandchildren of Dungeons and Dragons. So that sort of knowledge is like fun and useful to apply here. How did I get sidetracked onto Dungeons and Dragons? I guess I really just don't have much more to talk about on this chapter. You can steal those meteor tomes if you want. Those are pretty cool. Maybe Asbel has A rank fire. And there's another unit coming up that might be able to use them depending on how you go. Depending on if we get there, depending on if we choose that unit. And I'm definitely not talking about Miranda because she doesn't start anywhere close to A rank fire, and she's also dead. I don't want to sound callous there. I actually do like Miranda. She has Wrath, I think, doesn't she? That's pretty cool, right? Yeah, I tried training her once, and there's just not enough game to train her. But hey, at least we get Diarmid, so that's pretty cool, right? You only get him if Nana is alive when you clear this chapter. And you get him automatically deployed in the beginning of the next chapter. So that's cool, right? I'll talk about him a little bit more in the next chapter. Thank you for watching this one. That was chapter 20.